Hello, hello, hello. I'm Erica Lynn, better known as Erica Lynn Speaks.
If I can think about it for a second, learn to live life for the better. I had hard times, got a life coach for depression, got a life coach for depression. Now it's all mine, living days full of hard times. Ekalin, work on your mind, let's get on your grind. Working on the feelings inside, Ekalin got me on the rise.
Ekalin speaks, so the Ekalin speaks, so the Ekalin speaks, yeah, yeah. Ekalin speaks, so the Ekalin speaks, so the Ekalin speaks, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, alright. Looking up when I fell on hard times they changed my mind. Got my head up, looking to the sky. Miss Lynn, she changed my life. Looking up when I fell on hard times. With her unique design. Got my head up, looking to the sky.
Ekalin speaks, so the Ekalin speaks, so the Ekalin speaks, yeah, yeah. Ekalin speaks, so the Ekalin.
Hello, hello, hello. This is your girl, Erica Lynn, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Erica Lynn Speaks podcast. Y'all know how we do it over here. We like to play big or go home, honey. Who are we playing big for? We are playing big for ourselves because if you don't play big for you, nobody else will. I'm so excited today, you guys, because as you know, we are just on the tip of entering the third quarter. And all month, we have been talking about re-strategizing for the third quarter, trying to figure out what didn't work right for you, what went wrong, what do you need to change, like who do you need to hire, what skills do you need to acquire, whatever it is. I mean, I'm saying you got to get it. And if you don't know how to get it, we was providing all of those tools and tips for you here on the podcast. But before we get started with today's show, I want to make sure that you share this podcast with everybody that you know. And when you share the podcast, push hashtag Erica Lynn fam so that they know you represent the fam and it's coming from Erica Lynn's fam. You guys, I love all of you all for tuning in every week. So if you are not on YouTube, please subscribe to Erica Lynn Speaks on YouTube, or you can subscribe to or follow me on Erica Lynn Speaks on Facebook. And you guys know I'm on Twitter and Instagram under Erica Lynn Speaks. I love all the new family and friends that I've been acquiring since I've launched this brand. I'm so excited. And I too have made a lot of mistakes along the way. Have you ever heard that saying, fail your way to success? Because how you gonna know what you did wrong if you don't get it wrong, right? Or you can watch other people and see what experiences and see what they went through and how they got it right. But what was right for someone else might not be right for you. And so you got to figure it out. And when things are not going right, we definitely have to figure out what's your strategy for fixing it. Like, did you get a new strategy? Did you re-strategize? Like, how are you going to move forward? And you see, every month when I bring a theme, we always have different parts of it, right? How do you handle it mentally? How do you handle it with your physically with your body? How do you handle your heart? Or and most importantly, like how do you handle your finances or your business? So I always try to bring you different parts to everything that we have every month so that you can see the topic that we have. It's broad, but you can pinpoint it and address each area of your life. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be addressing like how do you re-strategize and ask for forgiveness. Like, so how do you walk into the third quarter not carrying the things on with you that you've had to deal with in the past, not carrying the hurt, the sadness, depression, because I know y'all sick and tired of being sick and tired. There's probably somebody watching this podcast. You are tired of being sad. You tired of being depressed. You tired of carrying that hurt. You tired of carrying that pain. It's preventing you and stopping you from moving forward in your life. Well, my guest today is going to help you with all of that. Okay. She's going to knock it out the box, show you how to go through your process of forgiveness. So my next guest is Diann Antley. She's an inspirational speaker who understands how important it is to share her journey and speak about how she overcame the divorce that she went through and the grace of forgiveness and releasing from herself. Because, you know, when people go through things, it's like, you're like, how you gonna help me if you didn't go through anything? How you gonna help me if you didn't have your own experiences? So today she's going to not only share with you her experiences, but she's going to help you go through her process. So I want you guys to put your hands together and join me in welcoming Diann Antley to the platform. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I've been waiting for your podcast because a lot of my viewers and my listeners have gone through so much, and learning how not only to forgive others, but to forgive themselves is an important topic for all of us.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because as important of a topic as it is, at the same time, we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't really want to discuss it, and we don't really want to dig deep into ourselves to figure out and understand why we don't want to forgive this person. Or if we tend to understand or think we understand it, it's like, okay, well, if I don't think about it too much, it'll go away. Or if I don't see that person, I'm going to be okay.
Yes, which is not the case.
Not the case.
So before we dive into forgiveness, I want the viewers and the listeners to get an opportunity to know a little bit more about you. So can you just kind of give us a little bit of background of Diann Antley, how you got started, what was your journey? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I want to publicly thank you for having me on your podcast. And if you are new to this podcast, as she said earlier, definitely go onto YouTube and subscribe, because not only are you going to want to play this one back, you probably missed some things from last week and the week before, and we want you to catch up on everything. So go ahead, not right now, wait until later, but right after we're done, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. And again, if you're just now joining us, my name is Diann Antley. I am what I love to call the Forgiveness for Life coach. And that came about pretty much with my own situations and my own circumstances, because for a while I had to deal with forgiveness, excuse me, but I wasn't dealing with it in a way that I should have been dealing with it. Mm-hmm. And that just goes right into my story and gets to give you a backstory about where it all started for myself. It started with the divorce that I went through. Mm-hmm. I went through what was, to me, a bad divorce. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being to the point where I had to file for bankruptcy. I had to walk away from a house, all of those things that you heard that different women have gone through. But a lot of us will go through it. But number one, we haven't grown through it. And number two, we haven't forgiven ourselves or the people who were involved in it. And so as a result with that, we're just walking around with everything. We're walking around with, oh, Lord, I'm never going to be able to get out of this bankruptcy situation. I can't date anybody. Or one of the ones that I love the most is, these men out here ain't nothing. Now, I know somebody has heard it, somebody has said it, or whatever the case may be, but I've come to share with you and just to let you know that that's not true. It's because you're still holding on to things that you have gone through. Mm-hmm. And I'm not here to judge anybody or to point fingers at anybody, but I just want to encourage you and to let you know that there is so much that you can be doing right now if you release that baggage. Yeah. There is so much that you can do. And again, I'm speaking from experience because I held on to all of it. As I just mentioned, I had to walk away from a house and I ended up downgrading into a 2-bedroom apartment. Mm. But I was only able to take what I absolutely needed. But by the time I got finished unpacking all that stuff, I realized I still had some other stuff I needed to unpack. Okay. Not bags that were sitting on the counter in the kitchen or some suitcases that were stuffed in the bedroom closet. I'm talking about the stuff that was up here and the stuff that is in here. Yes. I had to get rid of all of that stuff. And it took me a while for me to really realize and understand that I had packed it and brought it with me. Mm-hmm. But once I did that, the only way that you can get rid of it, the only way that you can truly forgive is that you have to release all of that stuff. And so what am I talking about? Well, in my case, when I moved from that big old nice, beautiful home into the 2-bedroom apartment, I also brought anger with me. I brought some shame with me. Let's see, what else? I brought some resentment with me, right? Because I went from a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, full attic, full basement home to a 2-bedroom apartment. So there was a lot of resentment. I think that was the biggest item in my suitcase, right? I brought that with me as well. And there was some other things that I brought with me. I know somebody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, okay, so I'm living in this apartment now. The bankruptcy situation starting to settle. I'm starting to get back on track in my own personal rhythm with doing what I need to do, going to work and so forth. But nothing was really moving.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was really shifting on the inside of me. I was still going to church, still looking good, smelling good, serving on ministries, all of the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there still was something missing, and I couldn't figure out what it was until I came to the realization, or rather God helped me come to the realization, was that I needed to forgive. I went through all of these other things. God blessed me with some place to live so I wouldn't be out in the street. I bounced back from the foreclosure and all of those things, but there was that one missing ingredient that I needed to do. It was one Sunday. Church was all over. I was sitting in my vehicle in the parking lot, just, you're on your little high, if you will, from service and everything, and you want to get in your car and continue on with it. And I know I heard a voice tell me to pick up the phone and call. I call him my husband, WASBAND, because he was my husband.
Okay.
So I was told to pick up the phone and call him and tell him that you forgive him. Now, y'all know I was the only one in that car, right? So why am I looking around like, who that person talking to? So first of all, I'm fresh out of church. Why I'm acting up?
Right.
Well, the Holy Spirit was talking to me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it, but I had to be obedient. And it wasn't until after I did it, after I picked up the phone, and the conversation wasn't even 10 minutes long, but that act was to date, I like to say, the most mature thing that I have ever done in my life. Yeah. Because when I drove home from church that day, it was like that baggage, that one suitcase practically disappeared.
Yeah.
The feeling was amazing. The fact that I was able to forgive him and ask for his forgiveness too. Now, that's an interesting piece, right? Because we want forgiveness, right?
Right.
We got to also give that out to other people sometimes ourselves,
Right.
So we need to be able to do that. That was definitely God.
Yeah, that was amazing, because people don't understand that to reach that point, your healing point, it does take that you being humble, to reach out to the other person whom have wronged you in some type of way, or you felt have wronged you, to forgive them. What it does is it releases the weight that it's been holding onto you, like the weight that's been holding you down, or the bondage that you felt that you've been in. And once you like even just say those words, I forgive you, it's almost like the air comes out and goes, and it's such an amazing feeling, because I can relate to your story. Now, I was married for 10 years and we've been divorced since 2007.
Okay.
I did not meet up with him till a year ago or 2 years ago. And I invited him out to the restaurant in which his wife came, but I was still kind of, so she didn't sit at the table with us. She sat at the bar, and he and I sat at the table because there was things that we needed to discuss.
Absolutely.
That she didn't need to hear.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because these are things that happened in the privacy of our union. And it was so funny when the man sat us down. I had my stuff written out. I was prepared to not only, first I wanted to go off on him, in a nice way, but not yell, not disrespectful, but I wanted to go off on him and then tell him I forgive him. But this is how God worked. When the man set us at the table, he set us next to 4 beautiful women with silver hair, And so I was like, oh, these are my elders. You know what I mean? So the respect in me knew that there were certain things I couldn't say, certain things I couldn't do, because these women were sitting next to me.
Right.
But before I can even open my mouth, he went to apologizing and this and saying all of these things that he had to say. I didn't know I hurt you as bad as I did and all of that. So when he finished, I did get an opportunity, of course, to tell him how he wronged me in case he did not know. But then I did give him a point of forgiveness. I told him that I forgive him and I'm ready to move on. So forgiving him allowed me to forgive myself, and it allowed me to move forward in my life. It was like that last piece of the puzzle that
Right.
was missing, because I had did all the other work mentally and going to the counseling and getting it out and crying and snotting and everything. But once I had an opportunity to tell him I forgive him, then my life began to open and expound as you see today. And so for you, what was it like for you after you had said to him, I forgive you?
What it was like was basically a road pretty much opened up, a road that I knew that I needed to take to better myself, but it opened up so that I was able to take the journey that I needed to take. Prior to that, I'm sure I was going to work every day and doing this, doing that, and doing the third, but I wasn't really getting anywhere. And that's why, because I still had this stumbling block before me called unforgiveness. And it wasn't until I had to go through that process of forgiving that I was able to take the journey to where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And you said something really key. You said something about forgiving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard someone say, or on a different platform, that, oh, I don't have to forgive myself for anything. And I thought about it, and I'm like, no, you're missing the whole point. You're missing the whole point, because we all have a responsibility for things that happen in our lives,
Yes.
whether we realize it or not, or whether we want to admit it or not.
Yes.
And so forgiving yourself also gives yourself an opportunity to move forward. It's
Yes.
all part of the same puzzle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that key point is you do have to hold yourself accountable for some of the things that did or did not happen in
Right.
that relationship, or things that happen. Now, I get that there's people that, was raped and stuff like that, and those are extreme circumstances.
Sure.
But in marriages, we would always, we as women, we play the victim, to be honest with you. And there are certain circumstances where we are the victim, but then you have to hold yourself accountable for certain things in that marriage, certain things that you did or certain things that you said. And not saying that warrants abuse, but the one thing that I had to learn, that I had to hold myself accountable for, is that I chose him. I chose him. I am the one that chose him. So everything that came after that, it just came with it.
Right.
So I can, if I didn't let him into my life, then I would have a different life. So he's not 100% fully responsible for everything that took place in the union, because I chose him. So I have to hold myself accountable for that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, how your mama always say, be careful who you choose, be careful who you lay down with, make sure you vet that person out, or you know what I mean? And so, yeah, whether you rushed or whether you say, because the biggest excuse that we give as women is, I was just young and dumb. I was young and dumb. But that's really not an excuse, because at the end of the day, you made that decision, you chose him, and so you have to hold yourself accountable. And even though you hold yourself accountable and everything that came along with it, being able to forgive yourself for even choosing that person.
Exactly. Holding yourself accountable is so important. And I love it, because we can say, oh, God sent me that person. I just knew that was a person for me. Okay. You believe that God sent you that person, but he also gives us free will.
Absolutely.
You could have said yes. You could have went with it. You could have not gone with it.
Yes.
Still, at the end of the day, it was our choice and the decisions that we made.
You are absolutely correct, because I ain't even going to look. I got to be so authentic today, since we here today, right?
Absolutely.
My second husband, I was a dummy, because I was that one saying God sent him to me. And I remember how I met him. Like, I seen him in church before, but I never talked to him. And this was like a big, huge church that we have in Michigan. And so on Saturdays, I used to like to go to the Easter market and buy fresh fruits and vegetables and things like that. So I remember picking up my fresh fruits, and then here comes this man comes behind me and like taps me on my shoulder, and I turned around and I looked, but then I had to look up, because he was like 6'2" or 6'4". I don't remember. And so then I look up, but then the light was like shining right behind his head. Like, I'm for real. The sun was like shining like right behind. And I was like, oh my God, is this my husband that God sent me? Right? And so to make a long story short, we married like 3 months later, I think.
Oh,
The marriage did not even last. Like, we married in July. I don't even remember, really honestly remember my wedding date. I have to ask my kids, but I think we married in July. And so by December, I was like, I want out. By January, I was like, I want out. And so by March, I think it was like, I was like, don't come back here. Like, it was like over for real, for real. So our marriage didn't even last a year.
right.
But the lesson that I learned from that is, even if you think that God sent you somebody,
Come on.
you still got to do the work to vet that man out. You still got to do the work to take the time to get to know that person. You still got to do the work. So I had to hold myself accountable for saying, oh, God sent me that man, and didn't do the work to see if that man was really a good fit for me.
Right.
But, you know.
Well, thank you for sharing that story.
It was a perfect fit. Sonia, she chimed in here today. She said, people tend to think forgiveness is for the other person, but it really is for you. What do you got to say about that?
Sonia is absolutely correct. A lot of times we don't want to forgive because we believe that, well, if I forgive, I'm just opening it up for this person to do something else to me. I'm going to look like a punk. It's going to look like it was all my fault and all of these other things. And none of it is true.
Yes.
None of it is true. Forgiveness is not for the other person. It's for you. It's literally to set yourself free from the situation and free from that person. You're not looking like a punk. You do not have to set yourself up to be a victim again. Again, that's a choice. You can forgive a person. You can forgive a good girlfriend and then continue to hang out with them and allow them to continue to do the same things. That's on you, but you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And that's not what forgiveness is about.
Yes, right. Because you could forgive someone, but you don't have to forget. You don't have to forget, but forgiving them, again, like you said, is for you.
Right.
And so as long as you're reach that place of forgiveness, it's almost like you start meditating. It's like you come to a place of solace, and you're just like one with yourself, and you make better decisions going forward because now you understand what not to do.
Absolutely.
You know? And what do we always say? When you repeat, because I say it a lot, when you repeat that experience again, right? So you might have to repeat that lesson again, maybe with another man or another female, but you have to repeat the lesson because maybe you didn't learn what God was trying to teach you the first time, or you didn't learn what you needed to learn. And so every time you keep repeating that lesson, and until you understand what it is that you need to learn from it, and then you don't have to go through that again. You know,
you are absolutely correct. And I can tell you from experience, even with that, God is not going to make it easy for you to get out of it again.
Yes.
You keep going through the same situation. It's going to get a little bit more difficult, a little bit more challenging for you to get out of it. Now, he's not going anywhere.
Yes.
But there's a lesson to be learned in all of this.
Yes. Yes. So Sonia chimed in again, and she said, there's freedom in forgiveness.
Woo. She ain't lying. Absolutely. There is so much freedom in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it allows you to just, like, you just wake up one day and you like, oh my God, what new things I'm going to tackle, what new experiences. Look at us. We're doing podcasts. We're speaking on stages. This all come from being able to reach that place of forgiveness. Because listen, hurt people.
Yes.
So can people imagine you and I on stage talking from a place of hurt, talking from a place of pain? So all we doing is teaching them to continue to be hurt, to continue to be in pain. But it was after we reached that point of forgiveness and release that we were able to walk into the new things and walk through the doors that God has opened for us.
Absolutely. And one of the other lessons that I learned in all of my experience with forgiveness is that don't be ashamed of what you've gone through and tell the story. because you're not the only one. Of course, when we're in it, we feel like we're the only one going through it. Can nobody else understand what I'm talking about, what I'm going through? Woe is me, all that stuff. But when you get to a point where you can share your story, especially when you know it's going to help somebody else, that is an amazing thing.
So I gotta ask you, you've out here, you sharing your story, you touching people's lives. Do you have a story of one person that said to you, "Thank you for sharing your story because I've gone through divorce, or I've gone through this, or I've gone and I didn't think nobody else have gone through it on the level that I'm going through it at, but your story is blessing me and allowing me to move forward."
There are a few just like mini stories of people on social media, because as I began sharing my story and I started putting it in a book, I am a contributing author to an anthology, and part of it, a small portion of the story is in that book. And from the people who have read it, some of them have said, wow, first of all, they didn't know I even went through any of that stuff, right? And then once they read it, yeah, I did get a couple of thank yous because they had gone through same situations or similar situations. Part of my story involves me when I was going through my divorce. My church didn't have anything in place at that time to help me. And that was disheartening for me because I needed to go somewhere. Everybody I knew pretty much was married. So if you hadn't gone through a divorce, you don't know what I'm going through, type of thing. And my church is comprised of mainly couples. So there was no program at that time or any type of ministry where I can go and really sit and talk to someone. I attempted to do therapy, but if memory serves me correctly, the Christian counselor that I spoke to, he hadn't gone through a divorce. So, it was only so much that he can do to attempt to help me. And so since I'm bringing that up, at one point I was just sitting with myself saying, why are there so many women like me who have gone through this and we don't have the support that we need? Yeah. And that's when I felt that the Holy Spirit was telling me, well, you can be that support. And I was like, well, Lord, I was just asking a question. You ain't had to come out and appoint nobody. We just talking. And nobody say, okay, tag, you it.
Yeah.
But apparently tag, I'm it.
Yeah. That's funny. And I think about the place that we are at in our lives by sharing our story. And I guess if you go back to the Bible, how people were like, how they would say that, and look, I can't even name people in the Bible, but I just remember stories of how people were bad and they were like out here doing bad things, and then God turned them into ministers or disciples to go in and change people or make a difference in the system. And so really we are repeating what it's already done in the Bible. We're just doing it modern day and modern time. And what I'm learning is, when you decide to dim your light, or you decide to not walk into the calling that God has for you, then he is going to take things away from you. He's going to begin to remove blessings and remove things, the doors that he had set for you. He's going to move them out of the way because you're saying, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm shy, or I don't want to share my story. Oh, I'm embarrassed. But he helped you go through it so that you can be there to be a shepherd or a steward over the rest of his kids in the world. You know what I mean?
Right. That's exactly it. We go through these things, but just like forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for us. Well, guess what? You are the actor or the actress, and you are the leading role in your situation, but you're actually supposed to share it out with other people.
Yes, absolutely.
You're not supposed to keep it for yourself.
Absolutely. So you had said something when you were going through your divorce that you had to file bankruptcy 2 times.
Yes.
I have to know, because I filed a bankruptcy. And I remember what that first night was like when it was finally told to me that I'm going to have to file bankruptcy. I cried, I snotted. It was just like, I don't know, like my world was coming to an end, because I didn't know what bankruptcy was. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, it was just I cried all night long. So I want to hear from you. What was it like for you to have to file for bankruptcy, not once, but twice, after your divorce?
It was very painful. It was financially painful. It was emotionally painful because here I was initially just starting out when I was just dating this individual. My credit score was in the mid 700s, and I had a good government job, and everything was great. And it was like almost as if I blinked, and all of a sudden now my credit score is in the low 400s. I have this house that I can't pay off, that I'm going to have to literally walk away from, which I did. And I felt my only other resort was to file for bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a real quick education of what different types of bankruptcy chapters you can file.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't healing, that wasn't easing the pain or anything, because as those of you who have filed for bankruptcy, it lasts on your credit report for quite a long period of time. And you have banks and other types of lenders and so forth who will look at that and go, okay, they tend to shy away from that. So now I'm thinking that financially my record is tarnished, and it just wasn't a good feeling at all. And it took me a long time to get to where I am now as far as that's concerned.
Mm-hmm.
That's more work that has to be done. Mm-hmm. But even in that work, I can't allow myself to, I still wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't. No, don't do it. Don't think about it like that. You got to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that you had to re-strategize so that you can go through your third quarter?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely have to re-strategize. And it went beyond finding the apartment to move into. It was re-strategizing myself emotionally, financially, physically, relationally, just trying to have relationships. And I'm not talking about romantic relationships, mm-hmm. just human relationships with people, because I had trust issues after that. I had major trust issues after that. Mm-hmm. And I was the type of person where I know that I was wearing everything on me. So I could walk somewhere and people could feel that negative energy in the room. I know they could.
Yes.
Because of the way I was carrying it.
Yes.
I had to learn to release that as well. So definitely I had to re-strategize.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kim, he stepped in. He says walking away from a home can be disheartening, but it is also a renewal of self.
I can say that now that I agree with you. Yes, I do agree with you, because you're pretty much shedding away and releasing all that stuff that didn't serve me anymore. The house didn't serve me anymore.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah.
Of course, when I was walking away from it, I didn't realize that, but I can sit here and say that now. So he's absolutely correct. Because
you were holding on to the memories more so than living into your reality. And I think that being able to, because I deal with it too, right? Being able to live in your reality, but being able to re-strategize by saying, this is my reality. I can no longer afford this. So that means that I got to let it go so that I can get something that I can afford. And like you said, you got a 2-bedroom apartment. And like trying, the hardest thing is that people don't understand about having to come to that point of filing bankruptcy. You're working so hard day in and day out, busting your butt, trying to come up with money that you just don't have to pay for the bills that are already high, already beyond. And so now you're pulling up like this stress and anger and anxiety and sickness and just feeling so overwhelmed. But when you said, I got to file bankruptcy, and you came to that place of forgiveness, forgiving yourself for even having to file bankruptcy. Like, how did I even get here? Because like you probably was at a point where, how did I even let him mess my credit up? How did I even, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. All those questions.
Right. So you wasn't at a point of holding yourself accountable. Like, I didn't tell him no, I just let him go do this, or I let, you know what I mean?
Right.
So when you reach that point of forgiveness, now you're saying, I got to re-strategize. I got to get on my A game, right? I got to do something different. So do you want to touch on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was almost as if I could picture myself just being on the ground on my back. Like, okay, Lord, this is as low as I can get right now. I can't get no lower than this, but I can look up at you and see you, realizing that he wasn't the one that moved anywhere. He was there with me the entire time. And I had to pick myself back up And like you said, dust myself off and re-strategize. And it's just a matter of you understanding that you're worth it.
Yeah. Yes.
Loving yourself enough.
Yes.
And just wanting to have better for yourself. Yes. I had to remember that I was worth it. I was worth it before I got married him. I was worth it when I divorced him, and I was worth it now. You have to know that you're worth picking yourself up and taking that journey to be the person that you were supposed to be to begin with. Yes. Loving yourself. I don't care who comes into your life, what happens, how they turn your life upside down, all around, or whatever the case may be. Self-love is so important. And I spent a lot of my time, I could say I didn't really love myself as much as I do now, especially growing up. And that's another story for another time. But when you discover that you are worth that love and how love comes with yourself first, you need to love yourself first. You're going to pretty much do whatever you need to do to re-strategize and to get yourself back on track. And that's what I needed to do. I was commuting from Pennsylvania to New York to go to work. Most people will be like, girl, you traveling all the way out there? Well, yeah, the pay was better out there and I needed the money. Clearly, I needed as much money as I can get my hands on at that moment. And so I was still commuting back and forth to work, still just maintaining a household, because now it's a household of one, right? It's just me, but that's okay. It's okay to start all over again. It's okay to discover a new you, right? It's okay to discover who you are so that you know who you are meant to be in life. God has something for each and every one of us, and we'll hit roadblocks. Yes. And different stumbling blocks and things of that nature. And that's okay. But God shouldn't deter you from taking the journey. Yes. And why I like to talk about forgiveness so much is because I know that a lot of us, we just refuse to forgive because we don't want to let those things go. Yes. We don't want to let it go. Yeah. And we don't understand it, but it's causing us more harm than good.
Yes. Say that again.
It is causing us more harm than good. It's like if you have something in your hand and it's sharp and you're holding on to it, and it hurts. But if you just do this and let it go, guess what? No more pain. It's the same thing. If you sometimes it costs more pain to hold on to things than it does to actually let go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are so correct. Because that's where you get moments of anxiety, high blood pressure, becoming obese because you just eating, just depression. Like all of these things come from you not wanting to let go or not allowing yourself to forgive and let go. And today we're going to forgive and let go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can start with yourself. I'm not saying rush to the phone right now and pick up the phone and call so-and-so. And because I'm going to tell you, chances are they either forgot about the situation. Yeah. They're not thinking about it. They done moved on with their lives anyway. So I would say the first thing for you to do is start with yourself. Yes. Give yourself grace and forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for how you've been acting this whole time, how you've been taking it out on everybody, how you haven't been allowing yourself to move forward. Right? And just forgive yourself for holding on to that baggage, holding on to that stuff that you don't need to hold on to anymore. Absolutely. If you're just now listening and just now tuning in, earlier I said my baggage consisted of resentment, anger. I was ashamed because here I am in my early 40s at the time. And that was my first marriage. And it almost immediately turned into divorce. So I was ashamed. And initially, I didn't want to go back to church because, again, my church is comprised of couples. And here I am sitting newly divorced. People in there, the majority of them couldn't understand what I was going through. So it was a lonely period in my life. But forgive yourself for all of that. Let all of that go.
That's right. And Saya, she chimed in and she said, yes, love yourself enough to know you matter and you are worth it. And sometimes you have to humble yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Forgiveness can be very humbling.
Oh, yes. Yes. Look, I'm still working on that humble thing. She also said, God cannot place new blessings in a closed hand.
No, she's right, because there's no room. Where he going to put it?
Yes.
I had to realize that I pretty much have blessings like dangling right over my head here. He was just waiting to give them to me. And I believe that he was just looking like, well, she don't have no room for it.
Yes.
Her heart is still holding on to what happened in her marriage. She's still thinking about it. So in her spirit is not with me because it's distracted. He didn't have any room. So I had to make room.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. And just think, if you only got a little bit of space, a little bit of capacity, and your space is filled up with things that you don't need,
Right.
things that are not going to do you any good. So just imagine, offboarding, unloading those things, and make room for the things that God has for you for your next quarter.
Right.
Make room for your next quarter. And I know I broke down the podcast this year in quarters, right? Your first quarter, second quarter. And whenever I say that, people automatically think about business. But your life, if you break your life down into quarters, right? Because the year is always over so fast, right? And it's June now. Everybody you say, what are they saying about June?
This is the end of Q2.
There you go. And they're always saying, well, the year is halfway over.
Mm-hmm.
So the question then becomes, what have you done with the first half of the year? What did you get right? What did you get wrong? What do you need to fix to go out through the rest of the year? Because it seems like when we get to end of quarter 3, some people go, oh, I'm just not going to do anything. I'll wait till January. But if you broke your life down into quarters, then that allows you to keep re-strategizing.
Right.
Re-strategizing, keep getting better, keep fixing, keep growing, keep grooming, keep praying, keep loving, keep forgiving. Right?
Absolutely.
And so so what how can I say, what strategy do you normally use? What strategy do you use?
Well, I definitely have learned to take things in sections and chunks, not trying to just hoard everything at one time, and taking it quarter by quarter is definitely the way to go, because you're absolutely right. Time is going by so fast. And so just if someone's listening now and they're ready to forgive and they want to know how to do it, just take it one step at a time. One step. And when I say one step at a time, I mean one step at a time. Don't rush. Don't get into a panic or a tizzy. Because again, we talk about, oh my goodness, we're already halfway through the year. I haven't gotten this done. I haven't gotten that. Okay, you're right. You haven't gotten it done, but it's okay. Because we still have 6 more months to go. Don't panic.
That's right.
And so for myself, what I like to do, like right now, we're in Q3. I'm already thinking about, well, at the end of Q2, right? I'm already thinking about Q4 as far as business is concerned, right? Mm-hmm. But as far as my personal life is concerned, I'm really kind of already into 2023 with some goals that I have set for myself.
Okay.
Yeah. But what you want to do is you just want to, if you're a journaler, journal. Write things down. Start out with what you want to do. What do you want to do with life? And that's one of the things that I had to do for myself. I'm no longer Mrs. Benton now. I'm back to being Miss Antley.
Okay.
Who is she?
Yes.
Start with that.
Yes.
Who are you? Who is she? Go back to the things that you like to do. Go back to the places where you used to go to. I'm talking about before all the other stuff happened. Mm-hmm. And perhaps you can find other things new traditions, new habits, right? Because you're not doing the same things that you used to do anymore. And mm-hmm. before you know it, well, let's see, maybe also the goal of going back to school, or maybe also the goal of starting a business. Mm-hmm. Maybe also the goal of just self-care. How many times have you heard about people coming out of situations and they just completely forgot about how to take care of themselves?
Yeah.
Because we're so busy ripping and running and trying to get ourselves together on the outside. Meanwhile, the inside still needs to go through some stuff, right?
Yes.
So self-care is important as well. But create a goal. Mm-hmm. Start with that. Mm-hmm. And then once you create that goal, if you need help, if you need assistance with it, seek out assistance, seek out help. Now, this is not a plug for me to try to promote anything, but I am huge and big. I don't have a problem with telling y'all, if you need to go see a therapist, go see a therapist. Get you a life coach if you need to see a life coach. Get help, get assistance from somewhere and from someone, because we can't do everything ourselves.
Yes.
We need help. We
Yeah.
do need help. I mean, look around at what's happening now. We still in the whole pandemic. If these gas prices get any higher, I heard someone say, what did she say these gas prices look like? I forget the terminology that she used, but if these gas prices get any higher, I'm going to have to find me a horse or something. It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so we're still carrying other types of baggage because of what's happening around us. And so the last thing that you want to do is continue carrying stuff that happened 20, 25, 30, 10, even 5 years ago.
Yeah. You are absolutely correct. And you said you touched on a lot of good points. I had to take notes so I can keep up. But one of the main things that you said was self-care. And we talk about self-care a lot on this podcast. I always like to bring like a health specialist on, like my sister. She's a naturopathic specialist. She's been coming on the last couple of months. And so for the month of June, we're still in the Move More challenge. And so I go to the gym 5 days a week. And if I remember or get it, I will post, an exercise or two, post it on my Insta story. But that's one of the ways that I do self-care. But it's not just the outer physical. I had to work to getting to this point of addressing self-care for the outer physical. I had to work internally first. So you are absolutely correct. There's no time frame that you have to rush to healing. The life is not going to pass you by, or nobody is going to forget about you, or like if you're missing the parties or going to the family functions because you're broken. Like I really truly believe in fixing you first, working on you, working on your inner, your healing journey, whatever that looks like, because it's not the same for everybody. It's different for everyone. But that's when we talk about like meditation, going to church, making sure you get a support system, making sure that if you need to watch these podcasts, right, that talk about healing and forgiveness, but get you a great inner circle, that somebody you can lean on when you're at your lowest point, learning what your triggers are. All of these things are part of inner self-care. And when you get to that point where you feel like, I'm here, I'm back, the world, I'm here, then working the outer part, that's just going to be something that's natural and gradual, because trying to lose weight and exercise, that's a whole nother mental game. And so if you haven't fixed that mental game in the inside, trying to exercise when you obese like I was, it's a whole nother mental game.
It is. And it's the same thing with forgiveness and releasing. It has to start in here and in here. Yes. You definitely have to want to do it.
Yes.
You definitely have to want to do it. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm helping someone else out with forgiveness, they can tell me their story and I'll sit and listen to the story. And I know they're going to tell me about what so-and-so did and how so-and-so did it and why so-and-so did it. And that's fine. My job is to listen. I'm going to let you get all that out. And I'm going to take so-and-so and put so-and-so over here, because now I'm working with you. And one of the first things I want to talk about, and first things we need to come to a point at, is the emotions, right? Because we carry so many emotions as well. We need to identify what emotion is causing you to not want to forgive.
Yeah.
Is it because you're angry? Is it because you're ashamed? You're afraid? Whatever the case may be. You might be a perfectionist, somebody who thinks that I don't have to forgive. I'm good. I'm great. I'm grand. Whatever it is, but we need to pinpoint that specific emotion. And we need to release that emotion.
Yeah, you are correct. Because it's like, I always self-analyze, because I can't, when we talk about things like this, sometimes I can't use some of my clients and stuff because that's their own personal business.
Right. Same here.
So I use a personal story. But when you saying self-analyze, I think about the fact that I was mad at him, yes, but I think I was more angry at myself for allowing these things to happen to me, or not being woman enough to stand up for myself. And I was embarrassed and I was ashamed, because I was like, if people found out what I did, what happened to me, that they will look down on me or treat me like scum, or you know what I mean? Like, and so it's like being able to understand that. So that's where the forgiving, those are things that forgiving yourself, why that's important, right? And so that's why I try to share certain examples so people can understand that we have all gone through something.
Right.
It's just for those who are who was called to share their story, to be a blessing, so that you can go through your healing journey, is why we're here, to show you how to re-strategize and forgive yourself and move forward. So that's fantastic. This is awesome. So listen, so we got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
I want you to tell people, how can they reach you? How can they work with you? What do you have, anything new coming up? Any programs, any shows, or what you got going on?
Well, unfortunately, just missed my intensive. I had my intensive happening back on June 11th, and I'm going to roll that back out in the fall, but it's called the Forgiveness Factor. And what we do is a 2-hour intensive, really 2.5 hours. But what we do, just touching back on what I was explaining before, is we touch on what emotion or emotions, because it can be more than one, that is even hindering you from even thinking about forgiving. And that's the first thing that we need to pinpoint and touch on. And so we go through that first. And we basically go through what I call my bless and release method, because we're going to thank that emotion. I've carried you long enough. You did what you needed to do for me, but now it's time to release it, and we're going to release it. So we release it. And then once we get to that point, now it's time to start going through the acts of forgiveness. I explain what the difference is between unforgiveness and forgiveness, because again, a lot of times people think that, well, if I forgive this person, that means I'm going to be another open target. No, that's not what forgiveness is. So we go through what forgiveness is not, and then we go into what forgiveness actually is. And then we'll go through a couple of exercises on exactly how to forgive. And everything starts with self. And so again, I'm going to roll that back out in the fall, probably about October or whatever the case may be. But before that, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm in these social media streets just like y'all. Okay, don't get it twisted. I'm here too. You can reach out to me on Facebook, on Instagram, and your host for this evening was kind of teasing me earlier because I'm actually on TikTok. And you know, it started with Instagram with those IG videos. I got a little caught up with the IG videos and said, let me start a little TikTok and see what's going to happen with that. So I'm actually on TikTok too, under Diann Antley as well. You can reach out to me there, and go ahead onto my Linktree website. And the reason why I'm utilizing that is because it has everything on there. There's actually a freebie on there as well called The Art of Releasing. You can go ahead and download that. And that just gives you about 12 different tips on how you can start releasing what no longer serves you. Just think about different ways that you can just start getting rid of the stuff, everything from clutter in your house to clutter in your mind, to managing your emotions and all that good stuff. That's on the website as well. If you want to have a chat with me, my calendar link is on that website as well. So everything is on that Linktree website.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And so if you guys are going to go for the audio listeners, because when this hit the website, those will be the audio listeners. So when you're on Linktree, is I am Diann Antley on Linktree. But of course, it would be attached to the audio link of Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you want to play. You just go to the website and play it. And so Diann, look, my eye itching. It's the fake eyelashes, y'all.
Well, they cute though. They cute.
Thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
So before you get out of here, I would love for you to leave my audience with a 1 to 2 minutes of advice or love or saying or something, a takeaway that they can walk away with and say, Diann gave me this information. I'm going to use it immediately so that I can reach my place of forgiveness or my place of healing in my life.
Okay. Well, let me just start out with 3 words. You are enough. We have to understand that no matter what we go through in life, that it's okay, but we're still enough. We're enough to reach that point where we wanted to reach to, before the roadblocks, before the divorces that Erica and I went through, before all of that other stuff. You are enough, but you need to believe that you are. You need to feel that you are. Again, it has nothing to do with the other person. This is about you. We spend a lot of time thinking about the other people in our lives who have caused us all of the harm and the hurt and the agony, but you're doing yourself a disservice because, number one, you're not paying that much attention to yourself. You're not showing yourself that love that you need to show. And as we've been talking about the whole hour, you haven't forgiven. And so I want to encourage you to just consider forgiving. Forgiveness is so, so powerful and so important. And again, just start from the beginning with that. Even if you have to, it may sound a little corny, but that's okay. Get up and look into the mirror at yourself. And I say that because for a while, I didn't even want to look in the mirror at myself because that's how I was feeling. But now I can do that. And just look at yourself in the mirror and remind yourself that you are worth it, that you love yourself, that you forgive yourself. I love affirmations. Just start coming up with different affirmations. I am enough. I am worthy. I am here for a purpose, on purpose. God did not create any junk. I am not junk. I'm loved, and I am love. Even if you have to repeat those things in the mirror to yourself, I don't care how many times a day, do that. Create affirmations that will just make you feel good about yourself. And if you can't think of anything, go ahead and Google it. Google affirmations. They're all over Google. But start speaking positivity into yourself. Lord knows there's enough negativity out here. If we wanted to, we could feast off of that for the rest of our lives. But that's not how God wants us to live.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Diann. That was a powerful message and a powerful word. I hope someone was able really to take home from the message that you shared with us today.
I hope so. It's always my prayer that if I could just reach one person, just one, I did my job. I'm happy. So I pray that I did.
Yeah. So keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. There's more to come, just keep walking in the steps that God has aligned for you. And there's going to be plenty doors that open for you in your future.
Oh, I received that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So God bless you. So I'm going to let you go and do your thing. It's Wednesday. I don't know what you got to do on Wednesday, but
get ready for Thursday.
Right. Let you enjoy yourself. I have a team meeting after the podcast on my team. We like to meet up and talk about what we're going to do next week or how we're going to grow the business. But, you really inspired me tonight more than because I just was kind of like struggling with something on the fence. And I spoke it out to my pastor sister friend, and I love her to death. And she's just encouraging me to keep moving forward. And so, I'll reach out to you or have Sonia send you an email for me, but I'll reach out to you directly and we can talk about some things that possibly connect going forward, because unity, you can reach more with unity than you can with one. And in this next quarter of re-strategizing, I want to work with those who want to work with me, but ultimately we both have the greater goal of touching as many lives as we can and making a difference, and definitely helping people to forgive themselves and others. Yes,
absolutely.
So thank you again for coming on the podcast, and I hope that you come back and visit us again soon.
As long as you provide an invitation, I'll be here.
Absolutely. Well, God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Wow, you guys, that was a great podcast. It really touched me because, as you guys all have been seeing me lately, I've been really I'm not as all hyper as I used to be, which that's going to come back. I'm just fixing some things in my life, nothing major, nothing bad, but it's kind of tiring. It's tiring. And sometimes when you do so much, you hold so many hats and you have to do all of this, it's really exhausting. And you just sometimes want to just quit and walk away. But then God sends you that little bird or that good person on your shoulder and say, hey, if things on earth were meant to be easy, then we wouldn't have a lot of things. We wouldn't have trials. We wouldn't have tribulations. We wouldn't go through things to learn lessons. So I have to understand that everything that I go through in my life is for a purpose, right? And so you just have to begin to understand what lesson it is that God wants you to learn from it, or what phase you at in your life, right? What quarter you at. And so I'm getting ready for quarter 3. I have to re-strategize some things so that I can move forward. And then I could get back on the podcast and I could be this hyper happy Erica that you guys always used to seeing. And I just be like on cloud 10 and everybody's like, well, dang, what does she be taking? I don't be taking nothing. That's just me loving life, right? Loving God, loving who I am, because I've gone through so much to get to this point. So now I'm just working a little harder to get to my next quarter, just like you guys. So it's time. If there's something that you need to work on, right? If there's things are not going right and you want them to go right, so they're going wrong, you want them to go right, let's re-strategize. Let's figure it out what it is that's going wrong so that you can get it right and walk into your quarter 3. Now, on next week's podcast, we're going to have the financial expert on here, Dexter Jenkins. We're going to be talking about re-strategizing your quarter 3 with your finances. So if you spending too much money, you can't buy that outfit, you can't pay the bills, you trying to figure out where your next meal is coming from, or you want to buy the house, you want to buy the car, but your credit is not right, or you just don't know what you did wrong, so you can figure out how to get it right, how to re-strategize so that you can post those pictures of your new house and your new car and your new life or whatever it is. Join us next week on Erica Lynn Speaks podcast with Dexter Jenkins, and we're talking about re-strategizing your finances. If you're not following me on YouTube, now come on, y'all, quit playing. Go to Erica Lynn Speaks on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. Make sure that you guys are continuing the Move More Challenge because we're in June. So whatever exercise, walking, reading, not reading, but you can walk and read. It's nice outside. Just go get some air, but put your hashtag in there. Hashtag Erica Lynn Fam, hashtag Move More Challenge. I want you guys to keep moving more, keep doing more, keep loving you, keep forgiving so that you can continue to have that release. What did she say? Focus on self-care, create a goal, talk to yourself. You know that you are worth it. Forgive yourself, love yourself, and keep moving forward. That's me. That's my time. I don't have nothing else to say. If you guys had any questions, you can still put them in the comments section and we'll address your questions when they pop up. I love you guys. And I'm Erica Lynn. And guess what I always say? Don't stop. Keep moving forward. And always remember to take one step beyond you. God bless you. I'll see you guys next Wednesday at 7. This podcast was brought to you by ericalynnspeaks.com. Sign up for your free consultation today at ericalynnspeaks.com/work with me. And just remember, it only takes just one step beyond
beyond you. I say Erica Lynn Speaks.